Good morning. This is Aaron with Transformed by His Truth. I'm going to do a video about Israel and Gaza today. There's an article from MSN that's talking about Israel to open new crossing, flood Gaza with aid, and a war of words with Iran heats up. Less than a week after President Joe Biden said conditions in Gaza are unacceptable and demanded they improve, Israel said it will open a new land crossing to allow more humanitarian aid to enter the embattled territory. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant told reporters Wednesday the new border crossing between the southern Israeli community of Zakim and the coastal northern Gaza town of Al Saifa would make it easier to bring in supplies from overseas and from Jordan to the east. These breakthroughs have a direct impact on the flow of aid. We plan to flood Gaza with aid, Gallant said. It will also streamline security checks and strengthen our work with international partners. Providing a direct access to northern Gaza, where an estimated 300,000 Palestinians still live, despite the widespread destruction from Israeli bombardment, would also facilitate the influx of assistance to the area. The vast majority of aid has been trucked in through southern crossings, more than 20 miles away, a long distance to cover amid the dangers of war. The U.S., other nations, and humanitarian organizations have been clamoring for Israel to let more food, medicines, and other necessities into Gaza, where the UN says half the population is facing catastrophic hunger. I'm going to say on a side note that Israel has been sending the aid, and the terrorists intervene and take the aid and don't care about the people. They take the aid for themselves and what they can, and don't care whether the Palestinian people in Gaza die from hunger or not. On Thursday, Biden told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu the U.S. policy regarding Gaza would be determined by how Israel addresses humanitarian concerns, according to a White House readout of their call. French Foreign Minister Stéphane Séjourné said his nation has no immediate plan to impose sanctions on Israel to force it to allow more humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza. France has been among the most vocal critics of Israel's war in Gaza. The commander of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Navy warned that Tehran could close the Strait of Hormuz if the enemy comes to disrupt us. About a fifth of the volume of the world's total oil consumption passes through the strait. The 468 trucks carrying aid that entered Gaza on Tuesday were the highest total since the war began in October, the Israeli military said. 150,000 Palestinians could return home under deal proposal. Israel would allow 150,000 displaced Palestinians to return to northern Gaza without security checks under terms of a ceasefire and hostage release agreement the U.S. has proposed. But Israeli leaders don't believe Hamas is ready to cut a deal yet, Reuters reported Wednesday. Israel's compromise on Palestinians returning home would remove a major stumbling block in negotiations being held in Cairo, but Hamas continues to insist on a permanent ceasefire and the withdrawal of all troops from Gaza, which Israel opposes. Well, of course they do. They're not going to leave now. They've got to finish getting rid of the terrorists. In exchange for its concessions, Israel wants a list of the female, elderly, and sick hostages Hamas still holds alive. That list may not include the 40 hostages Israel is seeking in the first phase of a truce because Hamas has told negotiators it can't locate that many captives fitting that description, CNN reported. In my opinion, they're probably not even alive anymore. They've probably killed them. Hamas leaders have said that the latest Israeli offer does not meet their demands, but they're willing to study it. Good for them. Iran's Khamenei says Israel's evil regime made a mistake. Israel has to be punished for the April 1st attack on the Iranian consulate compound in Damascus, Iran's supreme leader said Wednesday. When they attack the consulate, it is as if they have attacked our soil, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said Wednesday in a speech marking the end of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. The evil regime made a mistake and must be punished, and it shall be. Well, you know what? You're terrorists, and you deserve to be bombed and taken out because you're not even taking care of your own people. Israel has not claimed responsibility for the attack in which suspected Israeli warplanes bombed Iran's consulate in the Syrian capital on April 1st, in a strike that Iran said killed 7 military advisors. If Iran attacks from its territory, Israel will respond and attack in Iran, Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz wrote in a social media post. Avi Melamed, a former Israeli intelligence official and now a regional analyst, said Iran will probably try to calibrate its response to avoid direct retaliation from Israel while continuing to exert influence in the Middle East through proxies. While the world sits on edge waiting for the inevitable Iranian response, Melamed said, it's important to note that the regime has thus far acted strategically, that it will respond in order to send a message of strength and restore its deterrence capacity, but that it will do so at the time it calculates will best achieve its successful return of deterrence. Biden calls Netanyahu's strategy in Gaza a mistake. Who cares what Biden thinks? They're not even going to protect Israel if Iran attacks them, according to what Biden said. So why should we listen to anything he says? Netanyahu's approach to the war in Gaza is a mistake, and Israel should declare a ceasefire to allow more desperately needed humanitarian aid into the embattled enclave, Biden said in a newly released interview. Again, who is he to say that? Biden, in a Univision interview conducted last week, said Israel should allow total access to all food and medicine flowing into Gaza for 6 to 8 weeks. The White House later clarified that the pause in fighting should be part of a hostage deal. You know, if you do a pause in fighting, all the terrorists are going to do is arm up again and get ready for more attacks. I've spoken with everyone from the Saudis to the Jordanians to the Egyptians, Biden said. They're prepared to move this food in, and I think there's no excuse to not provide them for the medical and the food needs of those people. It should be done now. Biden also lashed out at what he calls the outrageous April 1st attack on the World Central Kitchen food convoy that killed 7 aid workers. The trucks were clearly marked, and the Israeli military had been provided details on the trip. The Israeli military said days later that a series of mistakes led to the accidental attack. 2 officers were removed from command positions days after the drone strikes. Aid delivery to Gaza by sea to resume. Aid deliveries to Gaza from ships in Cyprus will resume soon, Cypriot President Nikos Christodouloudides said Wednesday. The program has been on hold since the Israeli strike on a truck convoy April 1st that killed 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers. Cyprus has about 1,000 tons of aid destined for Gaza. Sea deliveries have been challenging because of the lack of a proper dock, and shipments were delivered on a temporary jetty made of rubble assembled by the World uh, Central Kitchen. The U.S. is building a dock on Gaza's Mediterranean coast that will allow more streamlined delivery of aid, which will be pre-screened in Cyprus with Israeli oversight. The dock is scheduled for completion by May 1st at a cost of $180 million to over $200 million, ABC News reported. Son of Hamas leader killed in Israeli strike. Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh said Wednesday that 3 of his sons and other family members were among those killed in an Israeli air raid on a vehicle in a refugee camp near Gaza City. You know, if you're related to a Hamas terrorist, then you take the chance that you're going to be bombed. Haniyeh said family members had been gathering for El Al-Fitr, which marks the end of Ramadan, at the Shati camp when they were targeted. Haniyeh lives in exile in Qatar, but said his family has remained in Gaza. I thank God for this honor, he said in a statement. With this pain and blood, we make hopes, future, and freedom for our people, our cause, and our nation. Al Jazeera reported a car carrying the 3 sons, Hazem, Amir, and Mohammed, was hit by a drone-fired missile. Haniyeh, speaking to Al Jazeera, said he has lost about 60 family members since the war began with a Hamas-led attack on Israeli borders communities October 7th. Israel falsely believes it can break the resolve of the Palestinian people by targeting the families of its leader, Haniyeh said. Anyone who believes that targeting my sons will push Hamas to change its position is delusional, he said. So even he doesn't care if his sons die because he's not going to change their attacks on Israel. The Israeli military confirmed carrying out the attack, describing the 3 sons as operatives in the Hamas armed wing. You know, that's the end of the article. When you belong to terrorist groups, whether you're family or related to them, you're taking a chance that you're going to be bombed and that you're going to be taken out because you're related to and probably on the same side as the terrorists and Hamas and Hezbollah leaders. So, you know, we're putting all this money into making a way to get the aid to them when the aid gets stolen by the terrorists anyway. So we'll see what happens with this and see if any of the aid actually makes it into Gaza to help those poor people who are being uh, neglected and rejected by their own leaders, who they voted into the government. They voted Hamas into their government, and doing that put them all in a very dangerous position. So what do they expect? I mean, they have to take out the Hamas and Hezbollah leadership in order to keep them from destroying Israel, because Israel is basically trying to survive. These terrorists want to destroy the Israeli people. They do not want peace with them. They do not want a two-state solution, no matter what they say. They want the elimination of the Israeli people. It's in their charter, and they have not taken it out. They refuse to take it out. So you've got to deal with these people that want to eliminate Israel in a way that's going to keep them safe, keep Israel safe. So anyway, I thought I'd just do that article to give a little idea of what's going on. And we'll see what's going to happen if Iran's going to attack Israel because of the taking out of that those people, not the aid workers, but the sons and leaders of Hamas, which is something that you do in war. And war, unfortunately, has acceptable losses and unfortunate casualties. But when you're at war, things happen like that. So I hope that people will realize that Israel is just trying to survive, trying to keep from being eliminated, and will realize that the only way that they can do that is to continue to go and to finish in Gaza and to go into Rafah, where a lot of the terrorist leaderships are hiding out. So anyway, thank you for coming to my channel. I hope this informed you a little bit, and I hope you have a good day. Take care.